So we're talking about your experience with the show. How about how you got into VO work to begin with? What made you think you wanted to do this as a career?
Morgan, do you want to start?
Yeah.
Well, okay, if you're an actor, you want to pay the rent, so you find out what's going, industrials, and probably when you start, you aren't union, so non-union industrials. They're little films that, I don't know, Hewlett-Packard. I used to do Hewlett-Packard in-house films. God, brain is down. I'm sorry. It's 10 after 3.
It's
Anyway.
daylight savings. I blame daylight savings.
Oh, no. We're just recompensing for last fall.
Siri recommends.
Anyway, you do as many things as you possibly can do. You do voiceover, you do on camera, you go to some voiceover classes, you try to be really careful what classes you go to because there's a lot of con artists out there. If anybody tells you there's a voiceover class, and once we've done 6 whole sessions, we're going to make you a voiceover tape, go, no, thank you, I don't think so. I don't know, right?
Thanks, sir.
Seriously,
Yeah.
seriously.
Thank you for warning me.
I made my first voiceover tape. What had I done? A couple of radio spots, which I fell into because it was easier at that time to fall into stuff. I was a temp receptionist, and they were doing radio spots, and they said they know I was an actor. Do you want to do radio spots? Sure. So you start. You just grab whatever you can grab. I went into a studio in Manhattan with scripts that I'd gotten from Gray Advertising, long defunct, and sat there, and I guess they put some music to it. And I threw this away. Oh, no, because now it would be just hilarious to listen to. You do summer stock. You do anything right you can possibly do. And then sometimes you just step in shit. Right?
Always stepped in it.
Yeah.
I love her. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my VO journey, I'm a theatrically trained actress. I trained in theater in Chicago, and I moved out here to try to do film and television, and honestly, voiceover never even was on my radar because I didn't think I was good enough. When I think about voiceover, I think about people like Jim Dale, who can do so many phenomenal voices, and I'm like, wow, I can't do that, so I can't be a voice actor. And so I never even tried. I never went after it. I never took classes. I never anything. Fast forward to, I don't know how many of you know this, but my husband is Phil Bach, who did the voice direction of this. And when I first met him, he was in voiceover, and he said, "You're not ready." And I was like, "Okay, I'm not ready." And he's right. I was like, "He's right." See, I knew I was right the whole time. I can't do voiceover, but I continued to train. And not just voiceover classes, but I continued to do scene study classes, which are really important if you want to do voiceover. And finally, he was like, okay, I think we can get you this audition. And I did so many auditions and did not book anything. And then I did an audition for a company, and then, nothing. And then I just didn't even think anything of it. 2 years later, I get a call from the company, and they said, "Hey, we're casting Fallout 76. We came across your audition that you did for this 2 years ago. We'd love to bring you in to do some voices." And believe me, I was like jaw on the floor. Really? And I ended up doing 8 different voices for the game, which I didn't even think I could do. I didn't think I could do it, but turns out I can when I finally tried, when I finally believed that I could. And just so you guys know, just because my husband does voiceover, does this, does not mean that I have it any easier. I audition just like everybody else. And when I'm in the voice booth, he puts my feet to the fire, just like everybody else. But it's been phenomenal, and I'm so glad that I now have a belief that I can do this, because it's been some of the most fun acting. It's been some of the most important acting I think that I've done, and then the people in this community are phenomenal also.
I had no idea we both did Fallout 76.
You were the...
So that was my very first AAA game.
I knew that.
And it was honestly one of the first things I did when I moved to LA. And I think I just joined the union when I did that. That's insane. Yeah, so that was like the beginning of my career, well, my LA career. Like Erin, I was also theatrically trained. I did stage for about 20 years and music. I was a classically trained singer. And then, went to college, did the college thing, did the Army thing, didn't know what to do with my life, was like, well, let's do this journalism thing. So I got my master's in journalism and worked for PBS Frontline, and then I'd had enough. I was dealing with PTSD, I was dealing with emotional problems, not afraid to talk about it, and I'd had enough. And I realized I needed to make a life change, and that the arts are what always brought me joy in my life. So I went back to theater, because it's what I knew, it's what I was comfortable with. And I was in San Francisco, I was doing theater there for about 6 years, and I'd not grown up with video games. We didn't have, I would go to friends' houses and play video games, but I started playing video games. And I was playing through Mass Effect as Femme Shep, the only Shep, Jen Hale, thank you. And I'm playing through this game, and I'm just like, this is awesome. I want to do this. And I lucked out in that a theater company I was with, the woman who started it, her husband was a sound designer for video games. So I started talking with him, and he was like, well, you know what? You've got a lot of theater background. That's amazing. Let me hook you up with the agent I go through for all my casting for video games. So this was luck. Like, we all have different stories. This was sheer luck. So this was in San Francisco. So he hooks me up with his agent, and I had a really long conversation with him. He's like, look, I love your acting background. You obviously know what you're doing, but you need to train. You need to train for voiceover, because it's a different medium. He's like, look, I'll take you on if you promise to get into some voiceover classes. And I was like, heck yeah, I will, of course. Also, if anyone's done theater, it is very hard to pay the bills when you do theater. I was a teacher. I was working for a granola bar company. I was teaching singing lessons. I was not sleeping. So I really lucked out, and the sound designer, he helped me make my demo reels, and I just trained and trained and trained. And then I was getting auditions for my San Francisco agent, and I started booking. And like you said, industrials for Apple and, I don't know, Google. And I was also doing on-camera work. They were up to me for that, and so I was doing some, on-camera commercials and some low-budget indie films and How to Get Away with Murder. Some really, really shitty Discovery Plus shows. But for whatever reason...
I was going to say, I did a reenactment show, so yeah.
Yeah, I think I've done like 4 of them. Man, are they brutal. But I was like, so, I'm doing both sides of it, and I was just like, I'm actually... I was just having more luck in voiceover. And also, for those of us who work both sides of it, you can do a lot more in voiceover than you can do on set. It's like, oh man, I can go record this radio spot for an hour and get paid more than I'm going to be on set for 12 hours. That's not a bad deal. But then I finally was like, you know what? I feel like after doing this for a couple of years in San Francisco, I was like, I really, that video games is my passion. Animation is my passion. And for those of us nowadays, we have to be able to do everything: commercials, industrials, promo, on-hold messages. If you call Disney Plus, I'll walk you through their help system. That's me too. Decided to make the move to LA, and it's a hustle. It's like, no agent, I had a few credits obviously under my belt from a lot of social, video games from apps and stuff. And then it's just, you meet the community and you get into classes and you train and you train and you train and you train and you audition. And I don't know what the ratio is. I think it's like you book 1 out of every 100 auditions. It's probably even worse. Yeah, it's probably even worse now. And then you luck out. You get a Fallout 76, and then all of a sudden, oh, I've got a legitimate AAA credit now. Okay, I'm doing this. And then it's like, okay, well, maybe now I can submit to an agent, submit to a better agent. And then it's just, every day is a hustle and a struggle, and it's exhausting and it's exhilarating. And you just hope the next day, the next year is better than the previous one. But yeah, like you said, I'm still doing on camera. you can see me like say a line in SEAL Team, and I still get paid more for that than I got paid for Transformers. So if there's any consolation as to, how the industry works, like I'm getting residuals off of SEAL Team and NCIS, and I had like one line, and Transformers is like the best thing I ever did. And I'm like, I think that paid half my rent that month.
Oh, my goodness. So I don't believe there is luck. Yeah, there is some luck, but my dad was a World War II vet, and I'm the 6th of 6 kids. And if I didn't get up in time, the bed got flipped. And he probably never slept. He had 4 or 5 jobs, and one of them was our whole family would go out into the garage and roll newspapers all night, and Rita and Mary would race, who they could get the paper and the stringer. And I would always try to bury myself in the papers in the back of the truck because all I wanted to do was go with my dad. And he'd stay up all night throwing papers. His arms were like Popeye. And singing songs. And he taught me how to sing. My mother was a vocal coach. My sister was my dance teacher. I thought my name was Goddammit till I was 5. No, I mean, if I was doing something bad, are you rooting in there? What are you doing rooting in there? And I'd open a drawer. Are you rooting in that drawer? Read it, damn it, God damn it. And she'd know my name. And I think when I came out, it was like, oh, there she is. It's Jeanne. So too much sharing, oversharing. So I kind of feel like I'm a mutt. I'm a little bit, my dad would say I'm a hybrid. But I've been training my whole life. I have all these voices in my head of Rita and Kathy, Joe, Mike, and the wonderful lessons that I learned, having my own checkbook, my own dance studio since I was 13, and also auditioning at the St. Louis Muni Opera. I got to be Gretel in The Sound of Music with Florence Henderson, and then I grew up. I grew up at the Muni, and then the American Theater. I toured all over with. Let me see, Sally Ann Powell and Jane Powell, Sally Ann Howes, and Ray Walston, and and the Hudson Brothers were in the Wizard of Oz, and they were so funny. And anyway, so many crazy memories. And I played my trombone in Music Man with Tony Randall. So many insanely crazy, fun memories. And then I come out here, and I'm out here in my 20s, and did every job in the world just to survive. And then I got lucky. I started getting commercials because I can speak really quickly. I said the entire McDonald's menu in 30 seconds. And I kept saying, would you come in for your audition now? And I'd be like, oh, I've got a cramp. And I go out in the alley. Big Mac DLC, a quarter pounder with some cheese, filet fish, happy meal. I was going insane, and I got that, and I thought I was for sure going to be a star because that's huge, right? I said the whole menu. I was so excited. I called everybody I know. Don't ever do that. Every time. I go down the City of Industry, and I walk in there, and there's like, what's his name? Mean Joe Green, the big giant football guy, and Billy Barty. And I knew him from Snow White from the Muni. He was dopey. Can I say that anymore? Anyway, I don't think I can. He was challenged somehow intellectually. I can't. That's going to ruin that whole musical. Anyway, they were sitting on sides of me, and they were talking about how rich they got from their Coors Light commercial. And I'm thinking, man, I'm really going to make it big. This is it. And then they go, Jeanne Carr, and I go in there. Yes, it's really Jeanne. I just call myself Jeannie. Tortured that poor woman. And anyway, because I was in trouble when I was Jeanne, so sorry. Or goddammit. So I go in there, and there's someone else finishing up. Have it your way at McDonald's. And I'm like, what on earth? And they don't want to talk to you or spend any time with you. They stand on the mark, get on the mark. And I did the whole thing, and I'm like, oh, so what's going on with this thing? It's vignettes. And it ended up only playing for 2 weeks, and they changed the menu. They got tacos. I made $1,800, and I was or a chicken salad oriental. That's all, so I mean, this is a tough game up here. I've bartended, I've done everything. I've sold dog food.
Oh my God.
But I guess the journey is what makes it so awesome. And even though we didn't make a lot of money, it's given me this wonderful opportunity to be part of such a wonderful family and a franchise. I never would have had this, and I almost feel like I owe you guys. Yeah. So thank you. Enough about me. What do you think about me?
I honestly, I'm stunned that the fan base is here for this, because you see, when I did this stuff in the early '80s, you went in and you were damn glad to have a job, and then you went home and you waited for the check. And it wasn't until the 90s, I was doing an industrial, and talking to the assistant AD or somebody, and I, blah, 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 oh yeah, I did the Baroness and G.I. Joe. And there was this pause. And of course, the pause was augmented once we got into the era we're in now with the computers, where we have all this ability to communicate. What I hadn't realized, I don't think anybody in the show realized, how important these characters were, all of our characters are, to the young people that are watching these shows. We may be keeping them from offing themselves or something. I mean, it, you know, it sounds crazy, but I had to adjust my thinking to the point that when a man shows up, and it's generally a man, because when I did the shows, we had the boys section and the girls section at Toys R Us. And so boys would go one way and the girls would go over to My Little Pony, you know? Why are you watching that? That's for boys, that kind of nonsense.
Yep.
Okay, right? Yes.
Yep, 100%.
So,
I had Army men.
The what?
I grew up with Transformers, yeah.
All I got was Army men, the little green ones that crawl.
Oh, yeah. no.
Yeah. So it was, so people that will come up to me are basically the guys who started out in the first series, and they will say, and I'd like you to meet my wife. Got to adjust to that. And I'd like you to meet my children. And it's crazy. It's really, really, it's a trip, because my first reaction was, you're kidding, right? And then I go, oh no, wait. Imagine being 7 or 8 and going home and nobody's there and it's just you, and you want to feel safe and you want to feel like you can take on, yeah, it was, okay,
Man.
you know.